Sean McCabe. Welcome to the show. Hey, welcome to the John A. McCabe Show, where it's all about accelerating your authority in your business or field of expertise. And I do that by helping entrepreneurs, business owners, authors, experts, and speakers get seen, get heard, get noticed on any device, anywhere, anytime, with as little as 15 hours worth of effort, also known as the Authority Acceleration Blueprint. On today's Anything Goes Friday, I've got a great guest joining me all the way from Australia. Now, it's currently 7 a.m. there on a Saturday morning, and my guest still agreed to do the show. He's a regular audience member on the John A. McCabe Show and usually watches us during his morning breakfast. Nobby Kleinmen is not your average business owner. Being in business almost 3 decades, he brings a diverse wealth of experience to the table as an expert within the financial planning industry, internet marketing, outsourcing, and business development space. I met Nobby several years ago in San Diego at a marketing event where I meet so many of my guests. I would classify Nobby as the extrovert in the crowd. He's the guy that knows just about everyone in the place, or is known by just about everyone in the place, especially if you're a lady. Oh, Nobby loves the ladies. Having been officially retired after he sold his business in 2006, he took some time off and traveled the world, but found himself bored, and within a couple of years, found himself looking for something to do. Now, in 2008, Nobby decided he wanted to get back into the money business that he left years ago, but not on the regulated side through companies. He wanted to help people with their personal money management. Now, after spending some time with his clients, the same question was being asked by the females over and over again. So Nobby did what most entrepreneurs would do. He ended up developing his own software program based on that one question he was always being asked by the women, who wanted to know how to manage their daily money. Now, developing the world's first complete program to help women manage their money, eliminate debt, and secure their financial future is one of his major achievements. Now, Nobby is the author of an international bestseller, Want More Money, Honey, which is a complete, no fluff, quick and easy to read book for managing personal financial matters. His latest release, Rich Girl, Poor Girl, is also an Amazon #1 bestseller. Now, Nobby is strongly committed to helping others in the field of business and entrepreneurship. His greatest passion is helping people to wipe out their debts and prepare for a financially secure future. Now, although Nobby has spent the majority of his time in the financial services industry, he started and ran an outsourcing company in the Philippines for a few years. Now, unfortunately, he had to shut the business down, and during today's show, we'll find out why he started that business in the first place and what caused him to close up shop. So be sure to stick around, because when I come back, we're going to chat with Nobby Kleinmen on the Anything Goes show for the John A. McCabe Show. Hey, thanks for joining us today. Today it's Friday, which means anything goes, and it's a fitting time to have my guest on the show, because if you know Nobby, you know that anything goes could become a reality on today's show. Nobby Kleinmen has been online since 1994. When his company got access to the internet. Of the 60 financial advisors in his divisional office, he was the second one with his own desktop computer. That's dating you, Nobby. And eventually, first with a laptop. And I'm sure that was more like a brick, a big suitcase. When Microsoft Publisher became available, he set up a newsletter which all the advisors subscribed to and sent to their clients. Now, in 2004, he helped his whole office go paperless, which upset management but made the auditors and compliance people very happy. In 2006, Nobby ended up selling his practice and took a couple of years off traveling globally and throughout the Aussie outback, and also spent some time renovating and landscaping around his home. In 2008, he started to get bored with nothing stimulating to do, so he decided to get back into the business of money. But this time not the regulated side through companies, but by helping individuals create a plan for managing their own money and their finances. After making that decision, Nobby has developed his own software program, the only one like it in the world at the time. He's written several books, including some international #1 bestsellers, and set up an outsourcing company only to close it 3 years later. So now he's back doing what he wants, which is helping people eliminate their debts and grow their wealth. So please give it up with likes, loves, shares, and a virtual flurry of thumbs up and heart icons across the screen for my guest today, Nobby Kleinmen. How you doing, Nobby?
Oh, that's me.
Yeah, that's you.
Hey, I'm alive. How much better can it be?
Excellent. It's breakfast time there in Australia.
Yep, just finished my breakfast, finished my cup of coffee, and I'm delighted to be on here with you, John.
Excellent. And it's what, Saturday morning there, I believe.
It is. It's tomorrow in your world.
It is. I'm like talking in the future.
You are. Would you like to get the lotto numbers for last week?
Please, please tell me the lotto numbers for tonight, for tonight's draw. And then maybe I'll come down and visit you.
That'd be good. You're welcome.
Excellent. So, Nobby, you've been a guest on the show, or in the audience for many episodes. So you know that the first thing we like to do is a speed round of questions. There's nothing to be tested on. There's no right or wrong answers. It's just for a way to get for the crowd to actually get to know you a little bit more, a little bit about your personal, a little bit about your professional. So
Absolutely.
Nobby, what's the book that impacted your life the most?
Do you know, when I was very young, I'm not a real reader, but I read Miller 18. But from a business perspective, the E-Myth by Michael Gerber.
Okay. When you were a young boy, who was your celebrity crush?
Is it all right to say Elvis?
It's okay. I'm not going to judge.
Annette Funicello.
So what is either a book, a podcast, or a show that you're into right now?
Oh God. Do you know what, John? Yours.
Okay. Well, you're a regular in the audience, that's for sure, and I really appreciate that. And you're always giving great feedback or great questions, not like that other guest that comes on or is in the audience on a regular basis that just harasses me.
Foreigners.
Yeah. So, Nobby, are you currently working with any coaches?
No, I haven't had any coaches yet. I act like a sponge. I get on and I read a lot of things that are going on, and I'll absorb and discharge. So the stuff that really gets me sits in there, and I might just keep reading and following them.
Yeah.
Until enough is enough and they're gone. But the rest of the time, just a sponge.
Excellent. And what's your favorite movie of all time?
Oh, Ben-Hur. Lawrence of Arabia.
Okay.
Lawrence of Arabia. There you go.
They're both very good movies. Are you currently involved in any masterminds?
No, I would dearly love to be. I know that Everett and Andy have got a mastermind going, which I would love to be involved in. Ed and Mike have one going, are involved. I'd love to get involved in masterminds. In fact, I've just been invited to be a speaker to a group of young people on call it the underprivileged side of town, to go and talk to them about money and futures and things like that.
Very good.
So being involved that way.
Excellent. So name a person, either dead or alive, who you'd most like to meet and have dinner with.
Albert Einstein.
Very nice. And what's your favorite type of vacation out of these two, beach or adventure tour?
Been four-wheel driving all around Australia in the outback, and absolutely loved it. But when you get the blend of the water and the outback, absolutely can't beat it.
The best business advice you ever received?
Leverage.
And out of these, last questions, two-parter, out of these questions, which is your most favorite? Water, beer, or wine? Or pizza, wings, and salad?
Wine and pizza, red wine.
Excellent. So, Nobby, your background, going back a few years when you first got started, your background was in the financial services industry, but it seemed like from the stuff that you had sent me that you were quite the innovator. You set up some systems to make life a little bit easier in the office. So can you touch on some of the things that you put in place and why you actually put those in place?
Right from the very start when I joined the industry, I started on Monday, and on Friday the share market crashed, and that was 1987. It wasn't my fault. I had nothing to do with it.
Just a coincidence, right?
Yeah, I didn't break it seriously. But the one thing that it taught me was the way people thought. And their thinking was, I don't want anything to do with the share market. So, I don't want to put my money in there for my retirement fund. And my thinking was, you're crazy. It's a total opposite. So quite often I found people would do what the rest of people would do, and their thinking and their mentality was always wrong. The opposite, they could get in early and win. And this extended throughout my whole business period. We totally changed the way that we ran our office compared to other people. I worked on the basis that if there was a clone of me in an office next door, why would people come to me instead of going to the person next door?
Right.
In 2000, we set up our office so it went paperless. So, and I'd been researching this for about 3 or 4 years already. We took every scrap of paper, every file that we had, scanned everything and put it onto a hard drive. Now, this was unheard of. And this is while the insurance companies were still using microfiche.
Right.
So they said, you can't do this. And I said, why not? The tax office has done it. You guys are microfiche, you don't use paper, and all this sort of stuff. So they didn't have a leg to stand on. So when the auditors came into the office, they said, we want to see the last 10 clients. We'd sit them down in front of a screen and say, there it is. Open it up. Go for your life. They loved it.
Yeah.
They said, this is brilliant. We wish everybody had their system set up like this. So we sent out newsletters right from the very beginning. As we said before, Publisher became available. This was when DOS was there.
So how were you delivering them? Like email? That was back when everybody opened their email?
No. Forget about email. This was snail mail. I even bought a machine.
You didn't email it. You just sent it by regular mail.
Wow.
Nice.
Absolutely, yeah. So so what happened was we would get an A5 sheet. And when everybody else on board in the office jumped in, there were 60 other advisors. So I put it all together within Publisher, but we had our main A5 sent off with our banner already on the top, so it would have Nobby, Kleinmen, or it would have A Grauman or whoever it was there.
Yeah.
And then we just sent them back to get overprinted with the content for the newsletter. Then they would come back and we'd end up getting them folded, putting it into envelopes, mailing the whole lot off. So very labour intensive back in those days. So thank goodness for newsletters on email and stuff.
Very nice. Were you doing any specific copywriting when you were sending the newsletters, or it was just all just informative?
It was just informative stuff. You couldn't keep selling product all the time. You had to come up with a reason. So what I did was I said to people, give them a story. Give me a claim that you've had, a client who's had a claim, who's had an injury, and because of their insurance policy, it reinforced the value of having it. And these guys are thinking, oh, gee, that's not a bad idea, So they don't even think of that today. It's crazy. Frustrates me.
So that's pretty much like telling those hero stories. Like, this is what happened in my life, and because I was working with these guys, here's how much better my life is because of that.
Absolutely. Storytelling is one of the most powerful ways to get people to listen and become involved, and always tell it. I've heard Mike Koenig saying this. I've heard everybody saying, talk as if you're talking directly to that person. So if I'm talking directly to you, John, this is what it means to you,
right?
And how you should feel, and that gives you a warm and fuzzy feeling. If it's and Sandy or Anne or whoever is listening and watching, this is all about you. Anything I give you, extend it through to you, take it on board, make it yours, walk away and use it in whichever way it benefits you and your friends and family.
Excellent. So what prompted you to sell the business in 2006?
I'm a rebel at heart. I hate authority. I shouldn't say hate, that's a strong word.
Yeah.
I sincerely dislike, vehemently dislike authority. So when the rules kept changing in the insurance industry and compliance became tougher, auditing became tough, I was spending 90% of my time doing paperwork instead of going out and seeing clients.
Mm-hmm.
I loved my work so much that on a Friday night I'd be looking very despondent and I would be like, what's the matter with you? well, tomorrow's Saturday and I've got no one to talk to. And Sunday night I'll be going, yes. And it's like, what's the matter with you? Tomorrow's Monday. I've got people to talk to. You know, you're crazy. But I loved what I was doing. I really, because it was benefiting people.
Right.
I knew that if I went to someone's house and something happened to them, their family was taken care of financially. You know, and there's a number of occasions. There's nothing ever so touching as when you go out and you personally deliver a claim check for a death. You know, and what's even worse is if you go out and you see a client that you know is dying in a hospital bed, who's laying there with a brain tumor, and they're just, you know, they're not even responding or anything like that. And you know where it's going, and the family is sitting there, and you're going to come back eventually with a check. And you walk away and you say, I should have done more. They need more money. They should have done more.
Right.
But it's not my fault. It was theirs. They said, no, we don't want any more, and that's fine. At least they've done something, and that's better than nothing.
Yeah, so when you ended up spending the 90% of your time doing paperwork and you got out of, or prevented you from, you know, all of that personal engagement, I can definitely see how you would start to not like the business quite as much. Because I know you're quite the extrovert. You like to go out and mingle and enjoy other people's company. So taking that away from an extrovert is almost like death, really.
Well, see, I would have always gone the opposite and thought I was an introvert rather than an extrovert. I love meeting people, but I'm not the type of person who gets out there and jumps up on stage, although that's probably changed recently. Since, I suppose, going to America, and particularly to Mike's events, you know, Pam's events and things like that, and seeing how things are done, perhaps that's what was missing in my life, and that's where I needed to be. And now I'm out there on the world stage. So, yeah, since getting out of the insurance industry, the world's become my stage, I guess.
Very nice. So, Nobby, I think a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, it's difficult not having anything to do or focus on. So take us through the decision of coming out of retirement. So, you know, you'd sold your business, you traveled the world for a couple of years. Take us through that decision of deciding that you're actually going to go do something again. I mean, business-wise or work-wise.
Yeah, look, it wasn't hard at all. I think I was about 55 or something like that, so certainly not old. And I just happened to be outside one day in the garden and finishing off some gardening, and a switch went off in my mind. It said, you're bored, you need to be doing something. And being very active, my mind had been at rest for 2 years. So now it was time to get back into to doing something. So the decision wasn't hard, but getting back into what? I didn't want to go back to working for a boss. I hadn't worked for a boss for so many years, and I never enjoyed that experience. So I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to go back into the financial planning side of things, but I did want to go back into helping people with managing their money, because I was always asked one question more often than any other, and always by women. So I thought, okay, people still need my help. Let's go out and find a way to help them manage their money.
So during those 2 years off, was it sort of like an informal thing? You were actually helping people just informally in conversations, or it was nothing, and then the light bulb went on? It's like, okay, I got to get back to doing something, and then that's when it started happening again.
Yeah, absolutely. That 2 years, I just totally switched off. We travelled around Australia, bought a four-wheel drive, travelled around Australia, went up to Cape York, went out the outback, you know, did all the bush stuff, you know,
yeah.
Fantastic. We travelled overseas, and like you said earlier, we renovated and landscaped around the house. But there's only so much that you can do. You get to a point where it's like, okay, time's up, you know. And that was when it literally was just like a switch went off in my head. You're bored. You got to do something.
So what was that one question that just kept coming up over and over?
It was always women saying, look, I don't care about financial planning, insurance or investment. I just want to know, how do I manage my daily money?
Okay, so how did you transition that into the idea of a software or putting together a software program? And how did you know how to put a software program together, or did you just outsource it?
Yeah, so look, what happened was I sat down, I looked around, and the most obvious answer to their question was a budget program. And the answer was always, spend less than you earn and pay the highest interest debt first.
Mm-hmm.
But they'd have this blank look, this glazed look on their face, and it was like, yeah, but it can't be that easy. They said, you're a financial planner, you've got, a fancy car and clothes, and all this stuff, so there must be more to it than that. So no, there's not. It's like, no. So what they wanted, that I realized, they wanted a big green button to push. So I looked around for budgeting programs, and I found a few, but I couldn't find anything that would do the job that I wanted. And the more I kept thinking about it, while I was washing the car, cutting the grass, and it came to me one morning while I was having a shower. And the answer came from the question. And the question was, how can I show people how to pay off their debts just on their current income? And that itself was the answer to the question. They had to be able to afford to pay their current debts with their existing income.
Right.
And so then I sat down over the next 2 weeks, I worked it all out. I sent that off overseas. It came back 3 months later. And in essence, the program hasn't changed very much in that 3 months. It's in that time. Some small minor changes and one major, if anything. But in essence, it shows people how to pay their debt down in the fastest possible time, paying the least amount of interest, which now gives them all that money back to put towards their retirement. And if everybody in the world, and this is not pushing the program, it's pushing the logic. Mm-hmm. If everybody in the world followed the logic of what this program does, they would be out of debt. A 30-year mortgage, they'd be out of debt in 10 years, and they haven't really changed their lifestyle at all. But what people haven't learned is, don't just pay all your debts and then spend what's left.
Yeah.
And it's not even save first and pay everybody else. It is a matter of just managing the money, and the program shows them the whole thing. So
is the program specific to a certain country, or its denomination doesn't matter, country doesn't matter? They just input their raw data, and then it helps them through it.
Absolutely. It's just based on numbers. The numbers don't change. It doesn't matter what country you live in. You could be working with seashells, and it's just the number of seashells that you've got. So dollars, pounds, or shillings, or rupees, or whatever it is, it makes no difference whatsoever. You just put the number in. Yeah. That's all we're doing with these numbers.
So I've never seen it. This is just like a wizard. It takes you through a series of questions where you just put your data in, and then it just figures it out.
It's just like it's not a budget program, that's for sure. This is a cash flow management program. But you use exactly the same information. You put in your income, you put in your expenses. The difference is you actually put in your debts.
Right.
And the information from your debts that will tell you which order that you should pay your debts off in to maximize the interest savings.
Gotcha.
Because somebody might think, the interest on this is 20% and the interest on this is 15%. Which one should I pay off first? The logic says pay the 20% one off first, because you're paying far higher interest. And yet the program will work it out, and you may actually find that the one with 15% is the one you should pay out first. And the reason that happens sometimes happens to be because the balance or the value of that loan or the debt, and once that's paid out, all of that money now becomes available to pay the rest of it.
Right.
So it comes with the old idea of snowballing. Once the money's available from one debt, don't just go and spend it. Take that to pay the rest of the debts off, and you just keep going.
Yeah, definitely sounds like a program that I think just about anybody could benefit from, really.
Look, there's nobody that I've ever met that can't. I've had a lady in New Zealand who had a farm that she'd bought, and her father, she had 5 cows or something kind of. She sold the 5 cows and took the money from that, put it into the program, and she ended up paying off her dad, who'd lent her money to buy the farm. So all of these things all added up, you know.
Yeah.
And I said, well, you should have actually paid your father because your father wasn't asking for any interest on it. You just paid it on the balance. You know, some really interesting stuff. I had a couple in Queensland who they already had a for sale sign on their house. They'd been to the bank and the bank said, we will refinance your debts. We'll roll everything into one. They had a couple of cars, credit cards, the usual thing. They were both employed, and they also had an offer to buy their house. And when we sat down and went through the program, and this was on a Saturday morning, we just went through it, and within an hour, they said, you're kidding, we can pay out all of our debts in 12 years. Everything, the house, the cars, the personal debts, the whole lot, in 12 years on their current income.
Mm-hmm.
I said, yeah, exactly. They sent me a message the next morning saying, we went outside and pulled down the for sale sign. We're not taking a loan. We're just going to work on this. It's not rocket science.
Yeah. Numbers don't lie in a lot of cases. So Nobby, we met at some Mike Koenig's events. So how did you end up getting involved in these events or started to come to America to take some of these events? Were you trying to solve a problem in your business, or what brought you there?
No, I actually became aware of Mike online here in Australia, and sometimes it's a little bit surreal. You know, we sit here and we see stuff on the internet, and it's like, that's in America, that's sometime in the future or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, for people to understand and recognise that it is happening now can be a big mind shift. But when I started following what Mike was talking about and things that he was doing in that, and I thought, this is great, this guy's switched on. I'm over here thinking, am I all alone? Am I the crazy one that's doing all this stuff, you know, that I found out that could be done? Because I'd already been travelling overseas as well to Thailand. A friend of mine was holding courses and events and things over there. And then Mike was coming to Australia. So it was funny. I'd heard that Mike landed in Sydney and he was holding the event there, and he said, do you know Nobby Kleinmen? They said, no, we know of Nobby, but we've never met Nobby. And then he went up to Brisbane and he said, so is Nobby here? And they said, no, we've heard of Nobby, but you know, we've never met him. And then he came to Melbourne, and I paid for VIP, which put me right in the front row, right in the middle. And Mike's up on stage, and Mike says, okay, I want you to write down these 10 things, right? You know, the 10 by 4 by 4.
Yeah.
So when everybody was writing down 10 by 4 by 4, which I was already aware of, I wrote on the back of my pad, I'm Nobby. and I held it up like that. And he saw it and he says, you're Nobby? I said, yeah. And he jumped off stage, gave me a hug, and everybody in the room's gone, oh, who's that? Oh, that's Nobby. That was nice. So funny. But, you know, what Mike was doing was so far ahead of everybody else. His mindset was different to other people that I'd seen, who were traditional marketers. Right. And I'm in that same sort of category, I guess. I'm not in your box type of person. I think differently. I don't consider myself a leader, but I'm also not a follower. Right. You know,
Mike's pretty much an innovator. He's sort of ahead of the curve, and a lot of people. Yeah. He's sort of leading the pack, and then a lot of people. What he does sort of picks up. It becomes a trend, or a lot of people start doing that. You know, 6 to 12 months after he's already been talking about it, already been involved in it, then it becomes mainstream after that.
Yeah, and I guess I suppose I fall into that a little bit, in as much as, you know, in the office I was the first one with a laptop computer. I was the first one who was doing newsletters. I was the first one who was innovating a lot of things. I was the first one to have my own CRM. Yeah. You know, guys were using 6x4 white cards and putting all the client details on it. I was whacking these into a computer program, you know, and this was when, as I say, DOS was still the operating system. Yeah. And I had the CRM, and it also had a sales pitch for income protection and life insurance and stuff like that. And these guys said, no, you're too far ahead of the curve. And going totally paperless, they said, it can't be done. And it's like, don't tell me it can't be done. You know, tell me how it can be done. That's all I want to know. So yeah, I did a lot of the innovation. So I guess in that sort of sense, I was also an innovator, and if I can't find something, I'll go out and do it, or I'll keep going until I find what I need.
So after going to these events, how did it actually change your business? So what kind of things were you implementing as a result of these strategies that you were learning? How did it help your business at that point in time?
Look, meeting Mike, and then also meeting Pam, and going through the course of spending money. If I didn't have mentors at that stage, I certainly took on Mike and Pam in their way of thinking, because they were thinking big, and it was really what I'd sort of been craving, I guess.
Yeah.
And they were putting it out there. So now I had somewhere to funnel. I had like-minded people that I could actually talk with. And then I found a whole room full of like-minded people. It was like I'd been an egg born into a nest.
Yeah.
And this room full of all of these people who had all these brilliant ideas, and the internet obviously has just changed the world. It's opened the world. Skype just opened the world up and made it so small, with being able to talk to everybody. I mean, just like the technology here between you and I.
Exactly.
It's getting better and better, and I think it's exciting. And somehow I sort of wish I'd been born maybe 20 or 30 years later, so that I could absorb this all so much more quickly, because it does tend to be a little bit overwhelming. But yeah, Mike and Pam, I've got to give it to them for opening my eyes to marketing, to a $2,000 program, I guess, and doing it properly.
Do you remember what your first program was, or the first one that you invested with Mike, or what year it was?
I think it was Make Market Launch that I bought with Mike, and I came across for that, and that was, for me, that was a huge investment. But
yeah, because it's not just the same as me, but yours is a little further. It's not just the ticket to the event or the course. It's the airfare, the hotels, the food. I mean, we're coming from a different country. My country is a little bit closer than yours, but still, it's quite an investment when you actually want to go to any of these events.
Yeah, well, I mean, the airfare was probably about close to $2,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
So yes, it's not cheap. And the unfortunate part of that was that the first time I came over there, I did the 4 or 5 days or whatever it was, and then I hopped on a plane to come back because I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
So I didn't have an opportunity to hang around there and learn or meet or greet or anything like that. And I know that now, after this small number of years, I suppose it's about 4, maybe 5 years, I now know a lot of people over in the States that I could probably turn around. I could stay there easily for 6 to 12 months and travel around the country meeting the people that I do know.
Exactly. And you make a lot of connections and a lot of friends going to these events over and over again.
Absolutely. I've spoken on stage in both England and in Spain. Because of being online and having the software and things like that, and because of the financial services. But it's a buzz. It really is a buzz. You're out there, you're as an authority. I think a lot of people like to be recognized for their knowledge and their experience. And if you can share that and share it genuinely without wanting to make a dollar from it, I think you like doing it as well.
Excellent. Now, Nobby, we're getting into the time frame when you started and ventured into an outsourcing company. So can you take us through that decision of why you started an outsourcing company? Was it solving your own problems for yourself, or just what took you down that path?
Well, like I said, I've been traveling overseas, and one of the things that I started realizing was that apart from having software, what I needed to have then, somebody said to me one day, you need to have a book. I thought, oh, God, You know, I hate reading, let alone writing. How could I ever write a book? But I ended up writing a book. It took me 12 months, or 8 months actually, but I got it done. But while I was meeting those people, which was over in Thailand, I came across outsourcing as such and what needed to be done. And back then it was just, you know, you could virtually throw up a website and that was all you needed to do to be on the internet. And then other stuff evolved, and you know what it's like today, it's totally crazy.
Yeah.
Well, you know, here's an opportunity. I'll get these girls to do my website stuff for me. And the first one didn't respond to me. And so when I went back for the next meeting, the second one was there, was a cousin. And I said, do you want to work with me? And she said, yeah. So that also turned out to be a problem. And they were from the Philippines. And I thought, I've got to find out what's going on here. This is not so hard. Why are these people having a problem?
Yeah.
So I went to the Philippines, and I got there, and it was like, okay, I know it's third world, but they just didn't have a clue, had no idea on how to run a business, and I was just in my element there. And it was like, well, do I really want to get involved with these people who have no idea on how to run a business?
Yeah.
So I thought, the opportunity globally is huge. A lot of people need this. So I'm going to open my own office. And I looked around for a few weeks, eventually found an office, spent, I think, $20,000, and we outfitted it with, you know, all fully painted and tiled and everything like that, all brand new computers through the whole thing, all brand new furniture. And then we started employing people. But in the Philippines, people will say yes to you because they don't want to offend you.
That's right. I've been there twice. And I have a lot of Filipino friends, so I understand the culture. With people who people have never dealt with them, or they don't know any personally, they don't really understand that. But it's just their culture. They don't want to offend. They're some of the nicest people in the world, and they just want to make sure that you're happy.
Absolutely, and they are wonderful people, but. I can't say anything bad.
It can be a challenge when you're wanting something done and they say, yeah, they're going to do it, or they know what to do, when actually they don't. And I've had a couple of my outsourcers I've had for, one of them I've had for 5 years, and I call them on it. I was like, are you just saying yes, and you don't know what to do, or you actually know what to do? So after 5 years, I understand him better, and he understands that if he doesn't understand, he just tells me, I don't know what you're talking about, which is, I would rather have him tell me, I don't know what you're saying, than just tell me yes and then going and not doing anything, or doing it all wrong to begin with.
Yeah, so these were the challenges that I was facing. And I mean, even when I was setting the office up, if I wanted the gas, electricity, the water, or anything like that, turned on, within less than 7 days, I had to pay money under the table.
Oh, yes.
It's
it's openly corrupt. Not like, our countries that are all under the table corrupt. Like, these are openly corrupt. Like, yeah, you want it done, just pay extra, and you pay me cash.
I go to the water board, and I say, I want the water turned on. As before I've even left the counter, basically, a plumber would come up to me and he'd say, oh, so you want your water turned on? Yeah, well, look, if you wait for these people, it's going to take you like 3 months. I can do it for you tomorrow, and I'll have it passed for you. And it's just going to cost you, cost me what? This is for getting water turned on. Just pay it, just pay it. All I had to do was put a meter on the wall. It takes them 7 days to inspect where they took the meter off the wall. Oh, anyway. I lost so much hair there. Oh, you can tell.
That's where it went. You left it in the Philippines.
I was virtually on the verge of crying that it wasn't fun. Thanks, Siri. Go away, Siri. What about it? But very, very, very frustrating. But I set the business up. I let it run for 3 years. Had a woman in there who said she was experienced and could run it, and it started going into a hole. So I put another manager in there, and he was a totally different mindset. And then eventually I came across an American woman who'd had experience in outsourcing, and of course she promised me the earth and delivered me dust.
Yeah.
and ended up ripping me off and ripping everybody off in the place, and sending the business broke. So unfortunately, I had to shut that last year. And but what it's allowed me to do is get back to my roots and get back to my software and the issue of coming back to helping women, anybody actually. I mean, smart men who've seen the program love it. But men don't ask for help. Men know everything.
That's right. Women are more apt to reach out and ask those questions and look for that help, as opposed to men just think they know it all and they'll figure it out themselves.
Women want help. Women want to be told what it is they need to do. They love it when they know it and they've learned it and they can go off and do it on their own. But if they don't, they will love somebody who will help them, show them how to do something. It's because when you look today, 50% of marriages end in divorce, and the women usually come off the worst. And so therefore, when it comes to a financial situation, that was the whole reason behind, Rich Girl, Poor Girl. Mm-hmm. That was about divorced women living paycheck to paycheck and not having control of money and things like that, and not understanding why. And that was really part of the reason how the software came about as well. So it all just ended up tying in together. And so much so that even in Rich Girl, Poor Girl, the software finds its way into the story. The girls in there become internet marketers and start selling cakes that they bake. And so they live happily ever after.
Very nice.
But you have to buy the book to read it, and it's only 99 cents still on Amazon.
So Nobby, I'm just going to get some get you to give some tips here. So what advice or tips would you give for anyone looking for some outsourcer help? So, Fiverr, Upwork, any of those services, you have some specific tips or things that they should look out for when they're dealing with these people?
Don't be disappointed if you're disappointed. Expect to be disappointed. Yeah. I've just had a disappointment with somebody on Upwork, because I don't have my own outsourcing office over there. Although I would get back into it, but I would do it differently. But using this person, I thought I knew everything I would need to know, but I never ceased to be amazed at how people will fail you again. And this time it was with India, and I swore after the first time I would never go back to India, and yet with Upwork that's where a lot of the people are. Yeah. So I thought, okay, fine, look, not a problem. And she promised me, she said, I promise I'll get it done within 12 hours, and a week goes by and all this usual stuff, and then you find that you've got to charge on your credit card, and then you end up having to dispute it. And it's not the nicest thing to go through one way or another. Just expect to be disappointed, but you can find good people on Upwork. You can find them on Fiverr. It depends on what you want. You need to be very specific about what it is that you want. Spell it out. Yeah,
you have to be very crystal clear on. You have to remember that a lot of these times these people are task oriented. So you have to spell out in detail every single little task that you need done. And what I've done on a regular occasion on, say, Fiverr, for example, is I will outsource 5 to 10 different people for the exact same task, all at $5, just to find, get something out of all of them that I can actually piece together and send to one person and say, this is very specific what I want. Here's all these examples. Do this, take this from this, or whatever. And I've done that on more than one occasion, and I ended up getting something that I really liked. The 2 times I've used 99 Designs, I don't know if you ever use them, but it's a different process. And both times I use them, I was so satisfied because you're instructing and you're directing, and you've got so many people bidding on your work or working on it. And I don't know if you found that, if you've used them or you found that with them at all.
I did use them early in the piece, but once I ended up with my own office, I would just, send off what I needed. Yeah. The beauty of having a person who is a Westerner in the Philippines, you're having a conversation with them that they understand.
Yeah.
And there's no second guessing. Whereas you're having a conversation with a Filipino or an Indian, it's their interpretation. I thought I was pretty good at school in English, but when I started dealing with India, it's a totally different English language.
Yeah, it definitely is. So the next one, next tip. So there's a widening gap. I'm quite sure it's probably the similar over in Australia, but the gap is widening, I think, right around the world between the haves and the have-nots. So that people with money, people that are just barely scraping by is widening quite a bit. So what are some tips that you would give, like us working class people, when it comes to money and debt?
The first one I would always give to anybody: eliminate your debt as quickly as possible. The faster you can eliminate debt, the freer you will become, the more money that you will have. Money will beget money when you stop paying everybody else. Mm-hmm. When they talk about, and I emphasize, you've got to get greedy with your money. When they talk in Wall Street about, greed is good, it's true. You have to be greedy with your money. Why the heck do you get up in the morning and go to work for somebody else? You're going to work for yourself. Become your own business and understand that every hour that you've got, you get paid a certain income.
Right.
Is that all that you're worth, or are you worth more than that? When I first got into financial planning, I had no money. I was absolutely broke. I bought a $500 car that used to get towed home more often. I was frightened to take it out. But, once I started earning money, and the biggest breakthrough in my financial life as such came when I quit smoking. And I quit smoking. My insurance premiums dropped by 50% in the following year. The money that I saved from cigarettes, I put towards paying off the credit cards that I had. And I had 4 credit cards that were all maxed out at $10,000 each. Mm-hmm. So I've been down the road of being a bad boy.
Yeah.
I don't think there's many people who haven't. So I paid off those credit cards in less than 12 months. And then I started paying off, I went and bought a new car eventually, and I paid that off really quickly. And I bought new computers for the office. I just ended up having money, and I paid off the debts that we had and paid off the mortgage on the house. And everything just happened so quickly, and it was all because of snowballing. Now, I don't care how people want to snowball, but if the most successful way is if you have a system.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a system, you've got nothing to follow, you've got nothing to measure. You need to have a system that says, go and do A and B and C and D. Follow the system. It's not rocket science. I did it all by accident, but as it turned out, the program I developed actually followed what I had done quite by accident.
So what I'll get you to do, Nobby, is I'll get you to put that information in the comments section, so anyone that's interested can check out the program, and if you the links for your books as well. But that's all the time that we have for today's show. So I personally want to thank you for being on the show and sharing with us all of your insight and all the things that you've been through for past almost 30 years. Definitely appreciate it. And everyone show Nobby some love by hitting that like button, love button, and make sure that you share this on your Facebook page as well as any business pages that you belong to or that you are part of a group, especially if it has anything to do with financial literacy or in those specific areas, because Nobby has a lot of information and he'll put those these links in the comment field. So again, Nobby, thank you very much for joining me on today's show. And for everybody else, just stick around. I'll be back with closing remarks. Okay, thanks, Nobby.
Thanks, John. It's a pleasure.
Well, thanks for joining me on today's John A. McCabe Show, where we work with entrepreneurs, business owners, authors, experts, and speakers get seen, get heard, get noticed anywhere, anytime, on any device. Now, also known as the Authority Acceleration Blueprint. Now, if you're someone who's looking to take your business to the next level and want to get some coaching advice, why not apply to be a guest on today's show? Now, for most entrepreneurs, we want to create a life of our own, create our own path, and do what we can to reach our own desired outcome, which is generally freedom. Freedom to choose what we want to do, when we want to do it, and with whom we want to do it. A life that's full of options and choices, where we worry less about money and more about the quality of time that we spend with others. Now, a great way to make that happen is to leverage other people's knowledge, time, and skill sets. Step one to reaching our freedom life is to realize that you can't do it alone. Working with a coach or being involved in masterminds is a great way for entrepreneurs to move their business forward. Now, a coach can help you shorten the time frame to get you from where you are to where you want to be, while being part of a mastermind is meant to bring entrepreneurs together, all with the goal of helping each other move forward with their business. Now, the second step to creating the life you envision for yourself as an entrepreneur is to implement systems into your business so you can streamline your operations, leverage systems, and free up your time to focus on your family, having fun, and the highest leverage activities in your business. You know, the activities that get you the biggest return on your time invested, the ones that truly make you money. Now, sometimes we just don't know what systems we need, how to implement those systems, or even have the time to find out what is needed. Now, working with a coach or consultant that understands, uses, and specializes in systems that can streamline your operations can help save you time, aggravation, and make you a lot more money. Now, for example, having a system or strategy that allows you to leverage just 15 hours of your time into enough repurposed content to get you seen, get you heard, get you noticed anywhere, anytime, on any device is a great example of leverage. Now, just imagine a system where you invest just 15 hours of your time, and the end result is you're a #1 best-selling author. You have enough content that's going to get you seen, get you heard, get you noticed anywhere, anytime, on any device. You have a successful podcast. Now, it's automatically attracting more attention, giving more value, and generating more leads, which enables you to attract an abundance of paying customers. Now, this is also known as the Authority Acceleration Blueprint. Now, to find out more about the Authority Acceleration Blueprint, coaching program, or mastermind, then contact me via my website at johnamccabe.com or connect with me through my show's Facebook page. Now, again, thank you for joining us on today's show, and I look forward to seeing you on tomorrow's show when I have another great guest on discussing their business and accelerating their authority. So have yourself an amazing day, and I look forward to seeing you again real soon.